The receipt trembled in her hand as the diner's lunch rush faded, the number at the bottom burning brighter than the ache in her wrists, $0.00, a silence louder than the clatter of plates. In that moment, as the door chimed behind the man who could buy the whole block without blinking, a single mother named Grace Miller felt the world tighten around her like it had so many times before, and she wondered if kindness had quietly packed up and left town. Before the story pulls you deeper, pause for a second. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that the smallest moments can change a life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment what kindness means to you, and subscribe to this channel for more true heart stories that remind us who we are. Grace had learned to count pain the way other people counted blessings. She counted it in hours standing on a checkered floor that never warmed, in the weight of a toddler asleep against her shoulder, in the way her back tensed when the bell rang and a new table filled. The diner sat on the edge of a small American town that pretended not to notice how many people were barely hanging on. Red booths lined the walls like old scars, and the smell of coffee clung to the air as if it had nowhere else to go. Grace wore a blue apron faded by years of washing and hope, and she balanced her life between refilling mugs and soothing her son Noah, whose curls brushed her collarbone as he breathed with the trust only children know. She had not planned this life. No one ever does. She had planned a degree, a job that came with weekends off, a house with a yard. Instead, she got a broken promise, a father who vanished when the pregnancy turned real, and a stack of bills that grew heavier, even as her tips grew thinner. Grace learned to smile anyway, to make strangers feel welcome, while silently calculating whether groceries could stretch another day. Some nights, she let herself imagine what it would be like to sleep without worry pressing on her chest, to wake up without fear knocking first. That afternoon, the man arrived without fanfare, a tailored suit out of place among grease-stained menus and chipped mugs. He sat alone in a booth by the window, posture straight, eyes scanning the room with the practiced distance of someone used to being watched. Grace recognized him from the newspapers left on the counter, from headlines that spoke of deals and fortunes and power. Jonathan Whitmore, the billionaire whose name adorned hospitals and libraries, whose face smiled from charity galas and business magazines. The town buzzed quietly, but no one approached him. Grace did, because work was work and fear did not pay rent. She served him with the same care she offered everyone else. Coffee filled before it cooled, a plate placed gently, napkins folded just so. Noah stirred once, and Grace shifted him without breaking her rhythm. She did not ask for favors or expect miracles. She expected a routine kindness, a tip that would help her buy diapers, a nod that said she was seen. Jonathan Whitmore ate in silence, methodical and distant, and when he finished, he placed his payment on the table, stood, and left. The receipt lay flat, unadorned by gratitude, zero. Grace felt the sting immediately, sharp and familiar. It was not the money alone, it was the message. The man whose wealth could erase her worries with a thought had chosen not to. She swallowed the lump in her throat, smoothed her apron, and told herself she would survive this too. She had survived worse. As she cleared the table, her fingers brushed something unexpected beneath the plate, a weight that did not belong. She froze, heart quickening, and then she saw it, an envelope, cream-colored, thick and handwritten with her name. Inside, the world tilted. There was a letter, penned with careful strokes, and beneath it, documents folded with precision. The letter did not apologize. It explained. Jonathan Whitmore wrote about the moment he noticed the child sleeping against her, about the way Grace's hands never stopped moving, about how he had grown up in a house where money was scarce and pride was all they had. He wrote that he believed charity given without dignity could wound as much as it helped, and that he wanted to give her something that did not look like pity. The zero tip, he wrote, was a test of faith in a world that too often judged on appearances. Under the plate, he left what he hoped would change everything. Grace sat down because her knees could no longer hold her. The documents were real. A trust established in her name, seeded with an amount that made her breath catch, designated for education, housing, and child care. A scholarship application, already approved for a nursing program at a community college he funded quietly. A path she had once dreamed of, but buried under survival. A deed to a modest home on a tree-lined street, mortgage paid, taxes covered for 5 years. There was also a note addressed to Noah, sealed for his future, and Grace pressed it to her chest like a promise she dared not open yet. The diner hummed back to life around her, but Grace felt suspended between who she had been and who she might become. Tears came, not loud or dramatic, but steady and cleansing. She thought of nights spent choosing between heat and food, of mornings tying her apron with shaking hands, of prayers whispered into darkness. She thought of how close she had come to believing that kindness was a story other people told. The envelope under the plate was not magic, it was intention, careful and human, and it demanded something of her too. Change did not arrive all at once. Grace learned that even miracles require paperwork, patience and courage. She enrolled in classes, studying after Noah slept, her notes smudged with coffee rings and hope. She moved into the small house with creaking stairs and sunlight that spilled. Across the kitchen floor in the morning, a place that smelled like fresh paint and possibility. She met other parents at the college, people who understood the quiet heroism of showing up tired. Jonathan Whitmore did not become a shadowy benefactor in her life. He became a mentor, at a distance, checking in through letters, celebrating milestones without fanfare. Grace returned to the diner to give notice, hugging coworkers who had shared their fries and their secrets. The manager cried. The regulars cheered. The checkered floor looked less cold as she walked out for the last time. Noah's hand tucked into hers, both of them stepping into a future that felt wide instead of narrow. She did not forget where she came from. She volunteered on weekends, telling her story not to boast, but to remind others that dignity matters, that kindness is not always loud, and that help given thoughtfully can lift instead of weigh down. Years later, Grace stood in scrubs at a hospital bearing the Whitmore name, her badge catching the light, as she moved with calm authority. Noah, taller now, waited after school with a book and a grin. They lived simply, generously, aware that abundance is measured not only in dollars, but in days lived without fear. Grace never told her son the whole story until he was old enough to understand the complexity of it, the lesson that kindness can be hidden and tests can be unfair, but hope is worth the risk. As this story draws toward its end, if it has touched something in you, if it made you pause and feel the weight of unseen struggles and the power of intentional kindness, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. And before we close, here is a special request from the heart. Please comment below with one act of kindness you have witnessed or hope to give, because your words might be the quiet encouragement someone else needs today. Grace. Sometimes thought back to the trembling receipt and the envelope under the plate, to the day the world tested her faith and answered it in an unexpected way. She learned that kindness does not always look the way we expect, that dignity can be a gift, and that even in a small diner on a quiet American road, lives can change when someone chooses to see,